I'm sure you've probably never asked yourself, is it necessary to put all the people in history who have claimed to be Jesus in a March Madness single elimination bracket to determine who, besides Jesus, is the ultimate Jesus? But if that thought had occurred to you, I'm sure you would have immediately thought, no, it's not necessary. But we're going to do it anyway. It may shock you that there are enough Jesuses to fill a bracket of 64, but there are, and that's what we're doing. Although not based on love, or caring for the poor and sick. No, this will be judged on infamy, power, influence, debauchery, and most insane. And just to be clear before I get started, I am going to have fun with this, but I don't want you to think I'm making fun of mental illness or making light of the tragedies that some of these people helped cause. I do hope to shed some light on the sheer magnitude of the phenomenon and help put it into perspective. I have a feeling you will find, like I did, it is way more common than you ever thought. If you're enjoying this content, consider subscribing, leave a comment and a like, which I will be sure to love, and let me know how I'm doing, or how you're doing, or your thoughts on something else. Thanks for watching, and enjoy the rest of the video. Okay, welcome back. This is going to be day 2, Division 2. And just to recap real quick, if you did not see the Maga Shin division, I'm naming each of these divisions by the last name from the first contender and the last name from the last contender in each division. So where we left off last time is Kondrati moved on to the final 4. He takes the Maga Shin, and so we are now on the Divine Bell, the bottom division here. And I am just following, or I'm just going down the row on the left here, and then we will move over to the right for the next 2. And I will recap also the teams. I did have to make a correction here. The last name wasn't correct on here. It's because I actually moved, I can't remember who it was, Matayoshi. He died in 2018, so I moved him to the deceased. It actually cuts off like we're right here, so I think Tony Quinn on. These are all still presently alive. And so yeah, let's get on to Division 2 and our first 2 matchups. What I've been doing is going through 2 matchups at a time and then following that out, and then completing the bracket that way. So let's switch over to the profiles real quick and look at Father Divine versus Lou, and John Hugh Smith versus Andre. Yeah. Another thing on the names, I'm skipping the ones that I can't pronounce. So if I see a name that I automatically know I am going to fail at pronouncing, I just skip it. Okay, so yeah, I was recapping the profiles from the last division while I was talking. This is Kondrati, the winner of Division 1. He was the leader of a Skoptic faith movement in Russia. They voluntarily castrated themselves, and I will go into more details later when we get to the final 4. Yeah, that's another thing I was going to add while I'm scrolling through the Division 1 people. So I'm going to be doing 4 videos. This is the Division 2 video. And then a 5th video for the final 4, and I will probably go in a little bit more in depth on the last 4. So anyway, Father Divine was known by the Messenger earlier in his life, founded the International Peace Mission movement, died in 1965, led a predominantly black congregation into a multiracial and international church. Some consider him to be a cult leader. His might be able to be disputed. I think he actually thought he was God, or called himself God. but he did make it on this list. He was on the Wikipedia list, so that's why he's also here. Versus Lou, founder and figurehead of a religious movement in the Netherlands, claimed to be the resurrected body of Jesus Christ, died in 1968. It's kind of interesting, a movement in the Netherlands. I guess it was the mid 20th century, though. Quite a bit different now. Although I suppose these movements are always possible. Our second matchup, we have John Hughes Smith as the first contender. Actually died in 1927. So this guy got into a dispute, or I'm not sure if he started it or if Mirza Ghulam Ahmed, you might remember him from the First Division, so Mirza Ghulam Ahmed warned him of his false teachings and predicted his miserable end. I don't have enough details here, I believe, to know if that prediction was actually true or if he was even close. But that's kind of the interesting thing about him. Andre, I don't have much for him on here. From Africa, Congolese founder of Mikhail, proponents of which subsequently adopted him as Messiah in the late 1920s. So I guess just from sort of my own incomplete data, I'm going to have to go with John Hughes Smith over Andre. And I think here, even though it is a movement from the Netherlands, which is kind of interesting, I'm going to have to go with Father Divine on that one. And I think here also, I'm going to have to go with Father Divine as well. So he moves on to Sweet 16, and we will very quickly move through this to our next matchup, Ernest Norman versus Krishna Vinta, and Douglas Metcalf versus Haile Selassie the First. So Ernest Norman, from 1904 to 1971, American electrical engineer, co-founded the UNERIS Academy of Science in 1954, was allegedly Jesus in a past life. His earthly incarnation this time around was of an archangel named Raphael. Claimed to be also the reincarnation of Confucius, Mona Lisa, interesting, Benjamin Franklin, okay, Socrates, Queen Elizabeth I, and Tsar the Great. So, I guess if you believe in the reincarnation of souls that can come back as male or female, I mean, if they can come back as animals, then they can. Versus Krishna Vinta, that was a little sidebar there. Died in 1958. Born Francis Herman Penkovich. Yep, shouldn't have tried it. Founded the Wisdom, Knowledge, Faith, and Love Fountain of the World cult in Simi Valley, California in the late 1940s. Stated that he was Christ in 1948. Wow. Claimed to have led a convoy of rocket ships to Earth from the extinct planet Neophrates. Okay, being suicide bombed by two disgruntled former followers. Okay, I guess I did not remember reading this one. So we have a strong contender here with Krishna Vinta versus Douglas Metcalf. Now, I do remember this guy. Referred to by the group as Lord Hejuasha, something like that. From New Zealand, of the Full Gospel Mission, aka Camp David, aka the God Squad. So, this woman, now 57, says she was manipulated and brainwashed by him and his congregation when she was only 13. Yeah, you know where this is going. Rosina, more than... more than 20 years later, she has found the courage to speak out, fearful and traumatized by what she's experienced. It wasn't until 6 years after Metcalf's death in 1989 when Rosina confided in another cult woman in the cult that as a minor she was forced into a sexual relationship with Metcalf. And I believe that's not all with that story. I'm missing a lot of details, which I won't bring up. So this guy is kind of an innocent person on this list. It was his followers, or his people that he never intended to be his followers, at least not in this way, claimed that he was Jesus, and they founded the Rastafari movement. He did not claim and did not approve of being called Jesus. He was the emperor of Ethiopia, and that's what led to that. So, yeah, we can go on this list. So yeah, it was Douglas Metcalf versus Haile Selassie in the first round. But wow, these two matched up. This is the toughest one yet, I think. But I think I'm gonna have to go with Krishna Vinta. Even though this guy Douglas Metcalf is a sleazeball, I think this Krishna Vinta. Let's review that one more time. Is going to be hard to beat. So led a convoy of rocket ships to Earth from the extinct planet Neophrates, from California, the wisdom, knowledge, faith, and love cult. And killed by a suicide bomb by two disgruntled former followers. Accused of mishandling cult funds, being intimate with their wife. Wow, just, yeah. Okay, fair to say that guy is going to be hard to beat. And not in a good way. Like I said in the first division, in the first video, I'm not trying to make light of mental illness or what these guys did, or the tragedies and the pain that they caused, but I just find this really interesting in the fact that there's so many of these people. It's just, when you see it all like this, I think it helps hopefully give it some perspective. Okay, so the next two matchups, we have Yahweh Ben Yahweh versus Laszlo Toth, and we have Clyde Benson versus Joseph Castle. Bring up the profiles here. Yahweh Ben Yahweh. So born 1935, American in 1979, founded and led the Nation of Yahweh. Headquartered in Florida, thousands of African American devotees at its peak, indicted on 3 counts of federal racketeering and extortion. He was convicted of conspiracy to commit murder. Versus Laszlo Toth. Laszlo Toth, a Hungarian-born Australian geologist, achieved worldwide notoriety when he vandalized Michelangelo's Pieta, statue. Yeah, probably didn't pronounce that correctly. Was not charged with any criminal offense, hospitalized in Italy for 2 years, immediately deported to Australia. He sent letters to Pope Paul VI and unsuccessfully attempted to meet him. Versus Clyde Benson, Joseph Castle, and Leon Gabor. Okay, yeah, so let's see, how did I do this? Did I split everyone up? Yeah, I did. Okay, so the next 3 on this list is also something that probably could be disputed. So if you wanted to dispute the total 64 number, but technically these are three different people. So this, The Three Christ of Ypsilanti, is a book by Milton Rokeach in 1959, and he conducted an experiment on three patients who believed they were Jesus Christ. He put them in the same room and then published his research in this book. I have not read the book, and these names are pseudonyms. But nevertheless, these are three separate people, although from a psychiatric hospital. But that rounds out our two matchups. So on this one, I think, I guess we'll just go with the first one here. These guys are, I don't have any details on them. That's another thing. If we wanted to redo this bracket, I'm just going to take this out here. Find out some more details on these three gentlemen. If that information exists, I'm sure it's in the book. But I'm going to move on. So we have, go back here to the last two matchups. We have Leon Gabor, which is the third gentleman of the psychiatric hospital, versus Jim Jones, and that one, I'm sure I don't have to introduce him to you, but we will glance at the profile anyway. He is obviously going to be the winner over Leon. And Einseng Hong versus Larry Jean Bell is our final matchup on this second division here. His profile picture is missing. Interesting. So we have a glitch in our profiles here. But Jim Jones, he's actually on the thumbnail. So, and the reason he's on the thumbnail is because he is the obvious favorite. I think, if you know anything about Jim Jones and the People's Temple, they are the sect that ended up dying. It's where drinking the Kool-Aid comes from. It's the most Americans outside of 9/11 that have died in a single day. So that's Jim Jones. Sorry, the glitch there. Versus, and then the second matchup here, Einseng Hong, 1918 to 1985, from South Korea, founded World Mission Society Church of God in 1964, who recognize him as the second coming of Jesus. They teach that Zhang Gil-ja, God the Mother, who they explain is referred to in the Bible as the New Jerusalem Mother, and that Einseng Hong is God the Father. Okay. Next we have Larry Jean Bell, from 1948 to 1996, was a double murderer in Lexington County, South Carolina, electrocuted in 1996. Was especially infamous because he forced his victims to write a last will and testament before they were murdered, and taunted their parents by telephone, claimed to be Jesus Christ even to his death. He chose to die by the electric chair instead of lethal injection. And yeah, I think you kind of get the gist of this guy. So we are going to move on. I think even though there's a couple of these murderers on this list, I'm going to go with Larry Jean Bell on this one over Hong. And I think the obvious winner here is Jim Jones, and the obvious favorite in this matchup, I'm sure I don't have to explain why, is Jim Jones. I think pretty much every YouTube cult list that I've seen. I've seen Jim Jones at the top of it. So, you know what? Actually, I'm going to do something wild here. Because of that, because of what I just said, literally every list, and I'll put those links in the description if they're not already there. Or I'll put them on this video. I know they're not on the Division 1 video. Every list puts Jim Jones as the winner. So I am going to do a surprise upset here. Do Krishna Vinta. Give him some little... To give him his 15 minutes of fame, because why not? I'm sure we are all tired of hearing about the People's Temple. Perhaps it's fate that his profile picture didn't show up. So anyway, let's highlight real quick. So now we have in the final four Kondraty versus Krishna Vinta, and we will be back next time. Be sure to tune in for the Division 3 matchups, the Allen Henry Division. But for today, that concludes the Jesus versus Jesus tournament, or I'm not really sure what I want to call it. I was thinking either the Jesus versus Jesus, just Jesus bracket, Jesus tournament, and what was the last one? Stay tuned for the next division, and keep in mind this is only the Jesus category. There are Buddhas and Jewish messiahs and Islamic prophets and divine rulers, and some in a category all their own. I'll be reviewing the spreadsheet I'm working out of in more detail in later videos as well, so be sure to subscribe for more. Bye now!